Hey there, friends. Hope you're having a great weekend. It is Sports Center with Jay and Dan, presented by McDonald's. Dan is off tonight. It is just me and some interesting news from the National Football League, because it wasn't that long ago that Washington Redskins owner Dan Snyder said he would never, ever change the name of the football team, despite the fact that it is very offensive. Even after President Obama suggested he do so, he still would not relent. What has changed his mind apparently on Friday? Money. All the major corporate sponsors of the Washington Redskins, FedEx, Pepsi, Nike. Nike took all their merchandise off their website. They have strongly suggested that they change the name, and now it appears that they're undergoing a thorough review of that name. This process, as Dan Snyder said, allows the team to take into account the proud tradition and history of the franchise, but input from alumni. How about Ron Rivera? Ron Rivera, new head coach of the team, had this to say: "This issue is of personal importance to me, and I look forward to working closely with Dan Snyder to make sure we continue the mission of honoring and supporting Native Americans and our military." And NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell releasing a statement on Friday. In the last few weeks, we've had ongoing discussions with Dan, and we are supportive of this important step, which appears to be leading toward a name change. Mike Garafolo.
NFL Network star reporter Mike Garafolo.
There isn't a nicer guy on the planet than our NFL insider Mike Garafolo. And Mike Garafolo needs to get away to his July 4th weekend festivities, but first he was kind enough to join us to talk about this Daniel Snyder statement. Boy, Mike, I never thought this day would come. Would love to get your reaction to the statement. And do you feel the Redskins will finally change their name?
I'll start there. There's no question, and in speaking to people around the league, they said there's no way Daniel Snyder puts out a statement that he's reviewing the team name if he's not going to change the team name, especially a guy in the past who has been adamant at one point in 2013 saying, quote, "We will never change the name," and you can put never in all caps. Well, he didn't make any font suggestions this time when he released his statement saying that they were going to review the team name. So all expectation is that the Washington Redskins may have played their last game as the Washington Redskins. And I say may only because the time frame's tough to tell. Some folks said this could be done in the next couple of weeks, maybe even before the team reports to training camp. So we can see where this is headed. And I'll add this. I mean, Dan Snyder said in the statement, the Redskins said in the statement, that all the backlash and all the pressure that they felt the last couple of days was really on top of discussions they were having privately over the last couple of weeks because of the climate of the nation and of the world right now. So Dan Snyder saying this was already under consideration, and just the recent pressure from FedEx, Nike, and some politicians in D.C. only pushed it to the point where he's making a statement publicly about it.
Money is the one thing that does talk. So that's one thing. And then, you mentioned training camps, Mike, and the NFLPA holding a conference call on Friday. What can you tell us about that as they get set to return to play?
They had one with all the players on Friday. The one that I think was really the newsmaker was on Thursday night when they had it with their player representatives, basically one per team. And those reps, the board of the NFL Players Association, the union, decided that the best number of preseason games, I'm told, was 0. So they believe that the league should play 0 games. Now, the NFL is saying we have the right to set the preseason schedule. We want it to be at 2. And the union is saying, well, hold on, we have a say because of our collective bargaining agreement and also the agreement that we signed with the league in March to develop a joint task force that would set protocols for return to play. They feel like they have a say with regard to health and safety, and they don't believe it's in the best interest of the players from a health and safety perspective to get on the field and play games that don't count. So these sides are in a standoff. We're getting closer to training camp. They've got to come to an agreement on this and a lot more. We shall see where this goes because they've got to get it done in short order. Used to be that the NFL had time. Remember, we kept saying that they've got all the time in the world. Not so much anymore. Training camp scheduled to start in just a little over 3 weeks.
Yeah, time is running out. That is our NFL insider, Mike Garafolo. Happy July 4th weekend to you and your family, Mike.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
North of the border, the Edmonton Eskimos released a statement on Friday regarding the future of their name, saying the Eskimos conducted an extensive research program with Canada's Inuit community regarding our team name. We announced the findings from that program months ago, included the fact that there was no consensus among the Inuit people and considerable support for the Eskimos name among Inuit in various parts of northern Canada. We recognize that there has been increased attention on the name recently, and we will ramp up our ongoing engagement with the Inuit communities to assess their views. Coors Side Seats virtual edition with our CFL insider Dave Naylor. So, Dave, the Redskins released a statement earlier the day, and then the Edmonton Eskimos released another statement. But the Edmonton Eskimos have always had a different approach to this name change issue, haven't they?
Yeah, they had. And this was started in 2015 when there was some criticism from Inuit leaders about the name Eskimos. And the team's former president, Len Rhodes, instead of hiding from the conversation, they were very open-minded about it. And they stimulated the conversation with people in the northern communities. They wanted to know what they thought. And they engaged with them, started some programs for young people. Players have made trips to those communities. So they're trying to have an authentic relationship with the northern communities and understand their take. Now, as recently as this past winter, they came out and said they felt there was no consensus among the people in those communities about the name and they were going to keep it, but they remained open to the idea that it could be revisited in the future.
Dave, you mentioned it. Just this past winter, the Eskimos addressed the situation. Why do you feel that they felt they had to release another statement on Friday?
I think they're just looking at what's going on in the world and how the context and the conversation around these issues has changed so much in just the last 2 or 3 months. And I think this is them being proactive to say, hey, we made a commitment that if things change, if there's circumstances that might lead to a different kind of conversation, we'll revisit this. And that's where they talk about ramping up their engagement and the conversation with people in northern communities to make sure that they're staying on top of this issue as the sentiment could also be changing at the same time.
7-time Sprint Cup champion Jimmy Johnson, a friend of SportsCenter with Jay and Dan, tested positive for COVID-19. He'll miss this weekend's race in Indianapolis. Johnson was tested after his wife was confirmed to have the virus. This will be the first career Cup Series race that Jimmy Johnson will miss, which is pretty incredible. He has had an incredible career. So, Major League Baseball and their Players Association announcing on Friday the first results of COVID testing, 38 positive tests out of about 3,000 samples. So not that bad. But despite those numbers, the best player in all of baseball, Mike Trout, not that comfortable with baseball returning to play.
Honestly, still don't feel comfortable. Obviously with the baby coming, there's a lot of stuff going through my mind right now, my wife's mind, my family, just trying to be the safest and most cautious way to get through a season. I've told Billy, I've told a bunch of the guys, it's gonna be tough. I gotta be really cautious these next few weeks. So I think the biggest thing is, obviously I don't want to test positive and I don't want to bring it back to my wife. We've thought hard about all this. Still thinking about all this. It's a tough time, tough situation we're in. Everybody's in, and everybody's got a responsibility in this clubhouse to, social distance, stay inside, wear a mask, and keep everybody safe. I gotta do what's right for my family, my wife. Obviously it's our firstborn, and I can't put them in jeopardy. Obviously, being with them and keeping them the healthiest is my top priority. But like I said, my mindset is playing.
Well, the Toronto Raptors continue to do individual workouts in Fort Myers, Florida, before heading to the NBA campus in Orlando in preparations for the restart at the end of the month. Pascal Siakam was asked about his level of concern as COVID cases continue to rise in Florida.
Obviously, it's tough, seeing the cases rise and different situations in different states. Obviously, Florida is one of them that's, pretty high at the moment. But I think teams and especially us out here, we try to do our best, making sure that, we're not really involved with the public, making sure that we stay in hotels. And the team has been doing a fantastic job in terms of, making sure that, we kind of isolated And I think that's the same thing that the NBA is going to do. Obviously, you kind of scared of, seeing the cases rise, but you also trust that we're going to do everything. The team's going to do everything. The NBA is going to do everything to make sure that we're safe.
Victor Oladipo will sit out when the NBA resumes its season, but will travel with the Pacers. The guard says he wants to focus on his rehab. He returned earlier this year from a very serious quad injury. Oladipo appeared in 13 games before the pandemic halted the season. You can understand why he would probably not want to play. He's had a lot of injuries in his very young career. Hey, we're going to take a break, but guess who was on the ice Friday? Connor McDavid, and we've got the video proof. You're watching Jay and Dan, brought to you by McDonald's. You're watching Jay and Dan, brought to you by McDonald's. Second round of the Rocket Mortgage Classic. The Rocket Mortgage Classic. Bryson DeChambeau. Not happy with his all-around play.
I'd really say it's B game right now. It's not 100%, but it's not bad either. I'm still able to get it in. I'm able to score, which is great.
DeChambeau shot a 600 in the opening round, but he had 4 bogeys Friday. Par 4 second hole. And Bryson DeChambeau is absolutely jacked. He's taken his time during the lockdown to just crush the weights. Par 5 fourth hole, 291 yards out. Yeah, that'll set up a 2-putt for birdie. DeChambeau's finished top 10 in each of his last 6 tourneys. Tee shot par 3 ninth hole. Looks nice. This will settle in inside 2 feet for another birdie. He cards a bogey-free 5 under 67. He is 1 off the lead.
To get to my A game, it's going to have to be being way more comfortable with my driver and more repeatable with my driver. It's obviously not bad, right? But I feel like there's another level. I've felt that before, and I want to reach that level. And then my iron play, I need to figure out why I'm hitting it on the heel and missing it a little right every once in a while. That's something that I need to clean up.
And you saw Canadian Adam Hadwin 8 under after 2 rounds, so he's very much in the mix at the Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit, Michigan, and you can see third round coverage Saturday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl return to the ice Friday in Edmonton, skating in their first Oilers team practice since March. Comes as part of Phase 2 in the NHL's return to play. The pair were also joined by Darnell Nurse and Zach Kassian among 6 additions made to Oilers training camp. And now it is time to walk over. Where are we walking to? Nowhere. We're staying right here. That's just how we do things on the at-home edition of SportsCenter with Jay and Dan. So, we just talked Oilers. It's time to talk Canucks. They will play the Minnesota Wild in the play-in round. Lots of young talent. How will they fare? Let's check in with Farhan Lalji, Craig Button, and the esteemed Gino Reda.
When play shut down, the Vancouver Canucks were actually in a playoff spot based on points percentage. But now that we're going to resume play, the Canucks actually have to beat the Minnesota Wild in a best-of-5 in order to earn an official playoff spot. To discuss that, let's go to Vancouver, bring in Farhan Lalji and Craig Button in Calgary. Farhan, when camp opens up for the Vancouver Canucks, what storyline are you going to be most interested in?
Well, Gino, heading into the series, I'm most interested to see how the Canucks' young players, their young stars, step up into, for the most part, what is going to be their first ever playoff experience. You look at Elias Pettersson and Brock Besser in the top 6. They've never been in the playoffs. Their third-line center, Adam Gaudette, never been in the playoffs. Bo Horvat, his only playoff experience came when he was a rookie playing in the bottom 6. And even on the back end, Quinn Hughes, who's been so important for this team, and Troy Stecher haven't been in the postseason yet. Hughes really did fade in the final 8 to 10 games of the year, and he did admit to reporters that the time off is going to allow him to be stronger going into the postseason. So how will those young guys respond? I think the break will benefit them.
Yes, Farhan, the inexperience exists. But Jim Benning in adding Stanley Cup champions Tanner Pearson and Tyler Toffoli, JT Miller, who went deep in the playoffs, and Alex Edler, who was there in 2011, can help alleviate some of the anxiety that inexperienced players feel. And as they go through it, can be a real guiding light as they play in this play-in round and hopefully deeper. But when I look at the Vancouver Canucks, this is a dynamic offensive team. When they get the puck and they attack, that's their identity. In the words of Dennis Green, they are exactly who we thought they were, and they have to play to that. They're not really good in their own zone. In fact, they're very porous. But given that, they have a nice safety net behind them if the play comes behind in that area.
Yeah, that safety net, Jacob Markstrom, also in his first playoff of his career, but he has been so exceptional for the Canucks in the past season and a half. Now, he did have that knee injury late in the year. I don't think that's a big deal. Everyone else has missed about 4.5 months by the time we get started. So for Markstrom, it'll only be 5 months. If he can pick up where he left off prior to the injury, he absolutely gives the Canucks a decided edge in goal over Devin Dubnyk and Alex Stalock of the Wild.
Guys, the last time the Canucks faced the Wild in a series was back in the second round in 2003. The Canucks were up 3-1 and then ultimately lost it in 7.
Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, the father and trainer of UFC champion Khabib Nurmagomedov, has passed away. He was hospitalized in Moscow back in May due to coronavirus. He had since undergone heart surgery. Conor McGregor shared his condolences on Twitter, saying, quote, "The loss of a father, a coach, and a dedicated supporter of the sport. Condolences and rest in peace, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov." That's right, the MLS is back. We have all the games for you, and we also have a preview show with Luke, KJ, and the guys. And that is Monday, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific here on TSN. And then it gets going on Thursday. We've got a pair of games for you. The Montreal Impact taking on the New England Revolution. That is at 7:30 Eastern. And then FC Dallas against Vancouver Whitecaps at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. And, of course, you can stream all matches live on TSN. Who Delivered is presented by McDelivery. 2004, this date, Maria Sharapova wins her first Grand Slam singles title, beating Serena Williams 6-1, 6-4. She was 17 years, 75 days old, third youngest women's champion in Wimbledon history. She hardly ever beat Serena any other time. In about 22, 23 matches, Serena won about 20 of them. But, hey, she got her title. Time for our very popular You Blew It segment, where we point out our errors. I was almost error-free on this show, but I did mention that Farhan Lalji, our Vancouver correspondent, had a new haircut. As it turns out, Farhan wears a toupee and always has. Thanks for watching our show, everyone. Have a great weekend.